Hello, M4K here, and welcome to the Performa workshop. While perusing one of the local thrift stores, I saw something that immediately caught my eye. A strange square TV remote sticking out of a bin full of dull, samey universal remotes. It was dirty and battered, but I'd never seen anything quite like it. It was clearly some sort of universal remote, but from a much earlier time, and shaped almost like a strange video game controller of sorts. It does seem like it was meant to be held with both hands like a game controller the way it's shaped, making its intended use all the more puzzling. I picked this particular remote up for a whopping 50 cents and took it home, hoping that some further investigation might reveal what it was. In its battered state, the best I could make out was that it was from RCA, a particular interest of mine as I'm in the process of rehabilitating some CED players that they had manufactured prior to their collapse as a company, and anything like this remote from RCA was surely from this same time frame. However, it didn't seem to be from a CED player, or any other singular device for that matter, as it included controls for a TV, a VCR, a phonograph of all things, and more. The mystery seemed to deepen. What was this thing? At this point, I hadn't anything more to learn from the outside, so it was time to take it apart and see what I could discover within. The first step was to get the batteries out. This boxy little thing takes 4 AA batteries in 2 compartments that were surprisingly difficult to get open. The batteries inside were, surprisingly, in pretty good shape, with the Duracell batteries dating from 2004 still in passable condition, which is better than I can say for most batteries I encounter while dealing with old tech like this. That discovery also puts the rough date of when this device was last in use as somewhere in 2004 and after. This would mean that something made in the early 1980s was seeing some regular use for the better part of 20 years at least, which I suppose could account for all the grime. So that supported the idea that this hooked up to something considerable in size and power if it was never replaced in all that time. With the batteries out of the way, I was able to proceed with the disassembly. Once the screws were out, I was able to peer inside, and I discovered that the remote is made up of 2 early 80s era circuit boards quite literally sandwiched on top of each other. The top board supports the buttons and interface for the input, while the bottom board contains what appears to be all the logic components for the remote and connects to the batteries. The boards are joined by a tough-looking metal connection between the two, and it all feeds into 2 infrared diodes communicating with whatever this thing was supposed to have controlled. Though the camera really doesn't show it, it's hard to describe how much grime there was both inside and out on this thing. It was terrible, and I mounted a really serious cleanup effort while it was easy to do so with the remote in pieces. However, even after pulling it apart, I hadn't found anything inside it that gave me any better idea of what this strange thing was used for beyond what I already knew and had presumed. Just to be thorough, I did set up my CED player to see if the remote might allow me to use it, but it did not, though I couldn't be certain that this wasn't just because the CED player in question has been on and off the bench as a work in progress since the spring of this year, and it was rather unlikely that the receiver end on this player was working while everything else on that player so far has not. An online search for RCA remotes was less than helpful. RCA's name brand has been slapped on so many OEM products over the years that the number and variety of remotes is kinda staggering. Truly like looking for a needle in a haystack. Then I had some success. I spotted something similar on eBay and voila! Surprised would be an understatement. This weird beat-up old thrift store find is in fact the control centerpiece for the RCA Dementia Entertainment System, the super high-end computerized TV entertainment center RCA rolled out in 1984.
Experience a new dimension in sight and sound. Now every sight, every sound, every performance in the theater of life is yours. Trust RCA to bring it to you on the ultimate audio-video system, Dementia, only from RCA, the most trusted name in electronics.
Going further down this rabbit hole, I learned quite a bit about this strange system I had previously never heard of. In 1984, hot on the heels of their CED home video format's failure, RCA chose to press ahead with their final major innovation and try and save their company from insolvency. This big last-chance gamble by RCA was an advanced, innovative, and expensive computerized entertainment system aimed at the well-to-do who would, hopefully, pay considerably more for the clever, intelligent functions the system could do. To RCA's credit, the Dementia system was very impressive at the time. It had quite a few features and functions that are commonplace today, controlling and issuing complex controls on a single remote device, setting timers, and loading in media from multiple sources. It could do it all. Doing all of this from your sofa was all very new in 1984, and there wasn't much of anything like it in America at the time. As far as my research on this goes, there really wouldn't be another system quite like this until the early 1990s, which brought the cost of this sort of technology down, much of it thanks to, ironically, CED's market rival Laserdisc. RCA had lost everything on CED's failure, and with the margins on traditional TVs and electronics shrinking, they needed a winner in the Dementia system. Alas, the steep $5,000 price tag that works out to almost $13,000 today, coupled with the plummeting costs of TVs across the board as more and more TVs were imported, put yet more pressure on RCA and the remaining American manufacturing. In the latter half of the 1980s, RCA would be bought out by General Electric, and entirely gutted for anything of value. Today, the RCA trademark lives on as a badge to slap on various imports and little else. So back to the remote, a CRK35A for those curious. It's still something of a mystery. The Dementia system sold poorly, but there must have been at least one around here somewhere, and it had to have been in use until at least 2004, if the batteries are to be believed. The system can't function as a whole without the remote, so why it got donated to a thrift store is a mystery to me. I reached out to the thrift store to inquire about other equipment that may have been donated, but after showing them some pictures of what the system might have looked like, they said they hadn't seen anything like it. In conclusion, this random remote I found, while probably useless in any practical sense, is an amazing little touchstone to the past. This once prestigious and expensive piece of technology, made by one of America's leading electronic manufacturers during their desperate final days, likely bought and cherished by someone in this very town, delivering them everything from top 40 music to Packer games and everything in between, and then it winds up in a junk bin at a thrift store where I picked it up. So the story continues. I guess it just goes to show, even unassuming junk can hold an amazing story. Thank you all so very much for watching. I have a lot more cool things coming to the workshop soon, and I look forward to sharing them with all of you. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.